Yeah. So first off, I want to thank all the subscribers. Appreciate you guys. Much love. And so today I want to talk about why do I interview the people I interview and what have I learned. So I'm gonna keep it specific today to the youth offenders, former youth offenders, and talk about why. Why do I focus on that? Now, if you watch my videos, then you'll notice it's not only youth offenders that I interview. I've actually interviewed a lot of different people, but I tend to enjoy those videos a lot, and I'll tell you why. So with everybody, there's always a reason why. There's a reason why they went to the California Youth Authority or to prison at an early age, and I like to explore that. I like to find out like what could we learn from this as a society, as a people, and just as a human being. You know what I mean? What could we learn from this? And I see there are a lot of factors, and a lot of them are pretty similar. And what's sad is most of the times is that it could have been prevented for a lot of the kids or adults now. But at the times when I'm talking to them, I'm hearing the stories that they're speaking of as kids, as children. So I like to get into that so I could like figure out like damn, and I could understand like how you go from point A to point B, because nobody is born a killer, nobody is born a hardcore gangbanger, like nobody is born angry. Those are things that kids pick up along the way. So that's part of the reason why I do that. Um, Second, another thing that I like from the videos when it comes to youth offenders is they talk about their experience in the system. And I noticed that's also different. I've heard people say that it was one of the best things that ever happened to them. They've learned a lot from their experience. They got a lot of education, a lot of training. But I've heard people say the exact opposite. They didn't get anything from it. There are people that said, and I'm one of them, that say like it wasn't really beneficial for me, right? Maybe there were one or two people that really had an impact, but for the most part, I didn't really learn much in there, right? So I like to expose that side of it so people can see what goes on inside of these jails, these youth incarceration, these youth facilities, and these are kids we're talking about. So that's the other thing I like to get into. I also the for me the most exciting part, the best part of the story to me is always hearing how they changed. That's very important to me because, as I tell a lot of people, when I first started the channel, I didn't think there were many people like me out there because there was statistically speaking, they said the California Youth Authority had a 90% recidivism rate. So the way I took it is, damn, most of those people are going to just come in and out for the rest of their life. The reason I thought that is because most of the homies that I'd see on the streets that were going in and out, they were the cats I was in Y with. So I was like, damn, that's it. Like, this is their life going forward, right? But these interviews have taught me that that's always not the case. Or that's not always the case. What the fuck am I saying? But yeah, that's not always the case because you have people who it takes a little longer than others, but they learn. They learn what it is. They learn that, fuck, we need a change. It just takes a little longer for them. So that's one thing that opened my eyes to, that my situation is not a unique situation. There are tons of people who have been to the youth authority and have got out and done better in their life. So that's what I get out of it. What I hope other people get out of it is seeing how the system is a failure and what we can do to intervene in these kids' lives before it even gets to that point where they have to start getting arrested and incarcerated. Because I think a lot of the times, if we intervene with at-risk youth, we can save them. There's a lot. Yeah, there's some kids who aren't going to learn no matter what. But we should try to get to those who need and want the help. Another thing I wanted to do um, is to show people that we're just like everyone else. Just because we came from a certain background and just because we've been through certain situations that other people haven't doesn't mean that we're not the same as everyone else. I've had people on who are parents. I've had people who are grandparents. I have people on who have been to college, people who run businesses, businessmen and women, people of all walks of life, it seems like. But we all have that thing in common where as youth, we were incarcerated. So I think we need to erase that stigma of the gangbanger, the stigma of the convicts, of the, you know, little cholos or whatever they call us, right? We need to uh, find a way to put that to rest so people could see we're just like you. Yeah, we had a bad upbringing. Yeah, we made some mistakes, but look where we are now. And that's what I try to do. That's why I do it. So, what have I learned? I've learned so much. I've learned so much from the interviews, and I appreciate everybody who's jumped on. For people like Jairo who talks about emotional intelligence, my boy Joker, when he was able to allow himself to become vulnerable and tell his story that many people would have been afraid to tell. And he did it with such bravery. You know what I mean? And that pumped me up. That motivated me. Like, yeah, fuck yeah. Like, he doesn't have to hide that. He doesn't have to be in shame anymore. You know what I mean? Like, we all respect him. We all know who he is. Solid motherfucker, man. You had that. You had the tale of growth from people, you know, people like Trouble. From everybody. Chino. There's so many people who I've had on that it's just like, damn, you know, Danny Murillo, who was, you know, in Pelican Bay Shoe at one point and finds his way to UC Berkeley. Like, there's so many stories out there that are so many interviews that I've had the chance to, you know, conduct that I'm just so grateful for because I've learned like so much. And people always tell me too, like, you don't speak over them and often. And I'm what I try to do is I try not to hear their story before I hear it, you know, before we start recording, because I'm genuinely like listening on edge. What's gonna happen next? Like, that's what I love to do. I don't want to go in there scripted. You know what I mean? I don't want to go in there. I'm going to ask this question, and this question. That might work for other people. And I know a lot of times it does. But for me, I just want to converse. You know, I want to have a conversation. And when I'm hearing the story, it's always natural. It's always like, oh, shit. And then what happened? That's why you'll see me sometimes like confused and shit like, oh, fuck, where is this going? It's because I'm genuinely invested in that interview. And when I'm having that interview, I always tell people that's their time. You don't need to hear me. Like, I could sit, all I do is navigate where it's going. You know what I mean? You don't need to hear me say, well, I think this and I think this. Like, it doesn't matter. It's not my time at that point. It's their time. That's the way I look at it. Whenever I have a guest on, it's always their time. And when I say we have a very special guest today, I mean that. I really do. Because their stories are very special. These are unique stories. And that's why I do what I do. You know, it keeps me pumped up to hear these stories, to hear the story of growth, to hear the story of determination. And for those who think like I wouldn't even say there are people who think that, but people who are like, why would you interview this person? He's from over there. Or why would you interview that person? They're from over there. I want to hear everybody's story, right? I want to hear how everyone dealt with the situation. And if you notice at the beginning, when we talk about the childhood or the circumstances that led to their incarceration, you could find we're all similar. We're all similar no matter what they bang, where they're from, what they represent, any of that. At the beginning of the day, you'll see it's a lot of broken homes. You'll see it's a lot of pain. And so that's kind of me, like a way to unify, to say, look, it's not just us going through this. It's them too. It's them. Like, we're all the same. And a lot of people have asked me, will I interview a case or someone who was dropped level and didn't redeem themselves while in YA, yeah, it will. And I extend that invitation because I think that's an important story to tell. And I want that story to be out there. And if people are ashamed of that, if people are embarrassed and they don't want to put it out there, I could understand that. But I still extend the invitation. And what I would say is I could make it so that when we drop the interview, you'll just hear your voice. You won't see your face. Nobody will know who you are. Because to me, again, that's an important story to tell. Like, I can't I can't understand it because I haven't lived through it and I haven't heard from it how it was day in or day out. The closest we got was to Beaver, but Beaver, like, he wasn't going out like that, so he was still fighting. Like, he never had to, like, go through a situation where he was case bashed because he wasn't gonna allow that to happen. You know what I mean? So I do want to see what happens with them. So that's why I opened that invitation. And just to correct it again, with Beaver, he was in no way a case. When he was dropped, it was merely for favoritism shit. So that's why. But that's the closest, like I said, because he went through some shit. You know what I mean? But I do want to hear the story of a case who had to live that way. Like, they had to worry about being victimized daily. And how did that affect them in the future? You know, what happened to them once they got out? Those are stories I want to hear about. So that offer is on the table. If you, again, if you don't want to be seen, we can have it set up so it's just like this. You just see me and we'll just hear your voice. But yeah, I'm excited for us. We got a lot of good stuff coming up. And that's why I do what I do. And, you know, I just thank everybody for rocking with me. I thank everybody for, your support. I appreciate it. And with that, we out. Peace.